Spent the last week running from the heat, but the beat's coming alive. Let's get lost tonight. Lord, who's on my right?
Hello, Wackos. Welcome to another episode of Without a Country. I am Corinne Fisher. I'm running for mayor in New York City. If you didn't already know that, I'm going to keep saying it, and you're going to be like, man, I'm sick of this lady saying it. But maybe it'll just have a certain ring to it. So then you can't say my name without thinking of for mayor of New York City, running for mayor of New York City. Again, if you want to contribute to my campaign, or if you want to sign up to volunteer in New York City is what we're preferably looking for right now, because we need a lot of field team members for when we have to start petitioning at the end of this month. As a reminder, if you're running for mayor, each role has a different amount of signatures it requires. But if you're running for mayor in New York City, you need to obtain 2,250 verified signatures from registered Democrats who have not signed for any other candidate, right? It's not a vote. It's not an endorsement. All it's saying is, I believe this person should have the opportunity to run for this position, okay? And I know you're probably thinking, 2,250 signatures, that doesn't sound like a ton of signatures. Well, a lot of times people kind of duke it out over these signatures, and sometimes people can contest it. Michael, your microphone's on. Yes, it is. I literally hear you sniffling and snorting in back there.
You can hear it, but the audience can't.
Okay, well, that's super distracting. For those signatures, you know, most likely we have to get about 10,000 signatures to actually get 2,250 verified. So as you can imagine, that will take the work of a lot of incredibly dedicated volunteers, and then the staff who will be managing the volunteers. The cool thing about that is if you're volunteering for my campaign, you know, for the field work, for the petitioning, you don't have to ask people for money for that part. And I think asking for money is probably the most challenging role. Don't worry, we will need people to do that as well. But just to give you a little bit behind the scenes, as I promised for this campaign, I'm going to tell you all the steps along the way, and it will be a fun and learned time. All right. So yeah, CorinneFisher.com. Also, our first ever benefit for Corinne Fisher for mayor is happening on Valentine's Day. As you know, if you've been following my work and Guys We Fucked podcast and Christina for quite some time, we pretty much always do a live show, a live recording of Guys We Fucked, the anti-slut shaming podcast on Valentine's Day. It is the unofficial GWF holiday. So we are doing that this week, this week and this year as usual. Valentine's Day this week, this year is on a Friday, and so our show is at 6 p.m. at New York Comedy Club, East Village. You can buy the tickets at CorinneFisher.com. Just click on events. And again, I know it's not the normal ticketing site, right? We can't go through the normal ticketing site because of the laws surrounding fundraisers for New York City campaigns. But tickets are $49 each, which is like, we didn't jack up the price. It's just like the normal Valentine's Day Comedy Club price. And so you can just buy one ticket by making a donation of $49, or if you want to buy multiple tickets in a singular transaction, and so everyone in your party doesn't have to enter their information, all you're going to do is multiply 49 times the amount of tickets that you want, click that other button, and then type in that number, and we will know that you want more than one ticket. Yep, that is that. And thank you for that housekeeping. Thank you for your attention during the housekeeping portion of the show. I do want to take a moment to welcome our newest cutie on Patreon, Tashley Hamill. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you're interested in getting additional content from this show every week, you can head over to patreon.com/withoutacountry, and you get one additional exclusive video news story every week. Sometimes it's 10 minutes, sometimes it's 15 minutes, sometimes it's 20 minutes, sometimes it's 30 minutes. Last week it was an hour because I was there was an article I was really interested in that didn't have time on the show. So I gave that all to the subscribers of the Patreon. But that is it right now. We are doing a pre-tape today, but only one day in advance, just because Mike has to work on another show tomorrow. Obviously, scheduling will be a little wonky next couple months as I navigate this campaign. But I'm dedicated to showing up every week, even if it's perhaps not live. But, we're only a day ahead of time right now, so this news will be pretty up to date. This week's enemy of the state goes to this guy named Aaron Craig Gleason.
Enemy of the state.
So the article that I'm going to take this from is from LGBTQnation.com. P.S. I heard yesterday that it just says LG. They deleted half the letters. They deleted the T from LGBTQ. They deleted the T and the Q, I believe, on the White House. I think it just says LGB on White House website. I just heard this in an interview yesterday and I didn't look it up. That is so crazy. Yeah. Okay. So on NBC News, it just says government agencies scrub LGBTQ web pages and remove info about trans and intersex people. The State Department's web page providing adoption information to LGBTQI plus prospective parents now addresses only LGB people. When I say it, I usually say LGBTQ plus. The I, not that I'm not deleting intersex people. It just honestly got too long, and the plus is letting you know I'm there for you. But it's interesting because there's no plus. It's just LGB. I guess that's the conservatives' compromise now. They're like, we can't win this war against lesbian, gay, and bisexual people, but we're going to try to win the war against these more these smaller groups. But it says lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people have long been grouped together and referred to more broadly as LGBTQ or a similar abbreviation like LGBTQI, which includes intersex people. Now, however, just 2 weeks after President Donald Trump signed multiple executive orders targeting trans people, the websites of several government agencies are lopping off the back half of the abbreviation or completely removing web pages that mention LGBTQ people. A page on the State Department's website that had up until last week provided information for LGBTQI travelers now addresses only LGB travelers. Similarly, a State Department web page providing resources for LGBTQI plus prospective adoptive parents now just says LGB prospective adoptive parents. The website of the Social Security Administration, an independent federal agency, formerly had a page about Social Security for LGBTQI plus people. It has now been updated to LGBTQ people. So that's they're just like, they're not even saying we're stopping at the B. They're saying we're actually just going to skirt around the T and go to the Q, removing the mention of transgender people and those who are intersex, meaning those who are born with physical traits that don't fit typical definitions for male or female categories. More common, however, are examples of web pages mentioning LGBTQ people that have been completely removed. The removed content includes a web page about tobacco use among LGBTQ people on the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, information about LGBTQ plus working group at the Justice Department, a page dedicated to the Commerce Department's LGBTQ program, and resources about avoiding sexual orientation discrimination on the website of the Labor Department. The CDC also removed its Youth Risk Behavior Survey, which monitors health behaviors of students nationwide, and included some of the only federal data on LGBTQ youth. The top of the webpage for the survey results reads, CDC's website is being modified to comply with President Trump's executive orders. Trump signed a variety of executive orders targeting transgender rights and gender ideology, including an executive order declaring that the United States will recognize only two sexes, male and female, and that they are assigned at birth and unchangeable. The order directs federal agencies to remove all statements, policies, regulations, forms, communications, or other internal and external messages that promote or otherwise inculcate gender ideology, which the order says replaces the biological category of sex with an ever-shifting concept of self-assessed gender identity, permitting the false claim that males can identify as and thus become women and vice versa, and requiring all institutions of society to regard this false claim as true. The order argues that ideologues who deny the biological reality of sex harm women by depriving them of their dignity, safety, and well-being. This is very interesting to me. Number one, my stance on this is that, again, we know this is a waste of time, and it's endangering a very small group of people. To bully a group of people as small as the transgender community is, I mean, I guess it's a page from Donald Trump's book, right? Because it's like, oh, I'm going to be a big guy bully to a group of people that is literally this small. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of resources. Because again, it's just such a small percentage of people. So this attack is just really wild and uncalled for. Okay, even if trans people were the most dangerous group of people on the planet, they wouldn't affect us in this way. You know. They're just too small of a group of people. The only way they would have power to affect us is if they were all billionaires. And that's a different 1% of people. So, you know, in a capitalist nation, just existing as a certain group of people, when you are that small of a group of people, you just don't have the power. So this attack is merely a show. It must be a distraction from other things. And I think we should obviously, like, people who aren't trans can take their time, they can take energy to protect trans people, but we have to, I think, stop giving him so much attention for behaving in this way. It's just really, it's a waste of everyone's time and money. Like, how much time, money is it going to take to kind of wipe this from all the websites, from all this paperwork? Like, we're reprinting things. Like, this all costs money, and this is all taking energy that could be much better spent in other ways. I definitely get, you know, I think that perhaps, you know, the left had spent too much time on wording, which is another topic that we've talked about on this show, like the constant, like, you know, the renaming things and the wording. Again, I think that also you could argue that that's a waste of time. Like, what people want is they want help, right? They don't want things to be renamed. These are all performative things. It's performative when the left does it, and it's certainly performative when the right does it, right? Taking words away doesn't make people not exist. This doesn't make concepts not exist. And it certainly doesn't make your day-to-day life more affordable. People want help, and people want help in real time, okay? So people are going to respond to more money in their pockets, more access to government programs, health care that actually saves lives, preventative medicine, education for their children. Like, these are the real things that we should be worrying about. So again, when the left does it and when the right does it, this kind of word mangling is a waste of everybody's fucking time. And again, just bullying a really small group of people, which I just think is extremely childlike behavior. And it's the behavior of someone who actually recognizes, like, deep down that they're not that powerful. When the White House was asked for comment and the changes to and the removal of web pages mentioning the LGBTQ community, a spokesperson for the Office of Personnel Management shared a memorandum directing all federal agencies last week to implement Trump's gender ideology order. The memorandum directed agencies to take down all outward-facing media, websites, social media accounts, etc., that inculcate or promote gender ideology by 5 p.m. Friday. In a statement the day after Trump signed the order and shortly after LGBTQ-related information started to be removed from the White House website, the LGBTQ media advocacy group GLAAD accused Trump of censorship. President Trump claims to be a strong proponent proponent of freedom of speech, yet he is clearly committed to censorship of any information containing or related to LGBTQ Americans and issues that we face. CEO Sarah K. Ellis said in a statement, "This action proves the Trump administration's goal of making it as difficult as possible for LGBTQ Americans to find federal resources or otherwise see ourselves reflected under his presidency. Sadly for him, our community is more visible than ever, and this pathetic attempt to diminish and remove us will again prove unsuccessful." Trump has also signed executive orders barring trans people from enlisting and serving in the military and prohibiting federal funding from going toward transition-related care for minors or to schools that promote gender ideology. All right, a lot of time wasted. So back to our enemy of the state. This is from LGBTQnation.com. It says conservative writer who accused drag queens of grooming kids arrested for child molestation. You don't say. The self-professed Christian philosopher was arrested for molesting a child under the age of 12. Aaron Craig Gleason, an anti-LGBTQ plus writer who has accused queer people of grooming children for sexual abuse, has been arrested and charged for molesting a child under the age of 12. You don't say. Gleason, a 39-year-old middle school teacher and soccer coach who has written for the anti-LGBTQ plus media outlets, The Daily Wire, The Federalist, and The Imaginative Conservative, was arrested on January 28th by police officers in Okaloosa, Florida. I would also like to point out LGBTQ Nation's use of saying, like, anti-LGBTQ plus media outlets, The Daily Wire, like it makes it seem like that the whole basis of the existence of The Daily Wire is to promote anti-LGBTQ media. So that, I mean, if you're familiar with The Daily Wire, it's certainly very conservative, and it's not like they're writing nice articles about gay people, but all those things, they're just like conservative outlets. So I just want to clear that up because it's a little weird the way they're writing it. They're writing it as if the main point of their existence is to take down gay people, and that's also not true. He has been charged with the lewd and lascivious molestation of a child under the age of 12 by a person over the age of 18 and was held in jail on a $75,000 bond. The Daily Wire has already removed Gleason's author page from its website, but the Internet Archive has preserved the page. It reveals that he wrote 2 articles around 2022 about current Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. The Daily Wire and its numerous contributors have long claimed that LGBTQ plus people and their allies are indoctrinating and sexualizing children through public schools, education, and media. In a June 24, 2023 post on X, Gleason shared a video of protesters from that year's New York City drag march chanting, "We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children." He commented, "No grooming going on here, they're just coming for our children." The video was originally posted on X by Timcast News, a media outlet of anti-LGBTQ plus influencer Tim Pool. Again, I don't know that I would necessarily describe Tim Pool like that, but okay. Certainly conservative. Last year, the Department of Justice named Pool as one of several right-wing influencers paid by a Russian government-funded media company to push Russian propaganda and disinformation to American audiences. While numerous anti-LGBTQ plus right-wingers pointed to the chant as proof that drag queens and LGBTQ plus people are grooming children for sexual abuse, the march's organizers told NBC News that the chant was a lighthearted, provocative, and defiant mockery of the anti-LGBTQ plus sentiment that sarcastically embraced the stigmatizing accusation. Obviously, reading that, if you know anything about the gay community, they certainly have a sense of humor about themselves. So it was quite obvious just reading that that's what was going on. But obviously, like anything, if you film it and you edit it and you only release a certain part of it into the world, especially to people who are not at all familiar with the gay community, and we know all these conservative groups who come down on the gay community, specifically drag, have no idea what's going on because they think drag is stripping. And like they just, there's truly, like I love drag and I love strippers, but there's really no correlation. First of all, you can't strip when you're in drag because your penis is tucked into your butthole, so it's going to fall out, okay? And that would ruin the mystery. So that's number one. And then number 2, drag is campy, not sexy. And there's a big difference between camp and sexy. And sometimes campiness will have like over-the-top sexual elements, but it's not something that is ever like meant to, or obviously everyone has a kink. So I don't want to say drag has never made anyone horny, but like also like balloon animals have made people horny. Farting has made people horny. So I can't control everyone's kinks, but overall, I have never seen a drag show that in any way made me feel sexually aroused, okay? It's just not, it's not sexy. It's campy. It's like, do Broadway shows make you horny? Like, that's what it is. Very strange. Let's see. While numerous anti-LGBTQ plus right-wingers pointed to the chant as proof that drag queens and LGBTQ plus people are grooming children for sexual abuse, the march's organizers told NBC News that the chant was like, I think I read that paragraph already. Sorry, guys. In his June 2020 article at The Imaginative Conservative, Gleason defends supporters of President Donald Trump against accusations that they are a racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic basket of deplorable and advocates for some form of secession between Americans who support Trump and those who see Trump supporters as bigots. Gleason's LinkedIn profile page and Facebook page, which has since been deleted, say he worked as a full-time teacher at the Rocky Bayou Christian School, RBCS, for the last year and 7 months. In response to Gleason's arrest, Superintendent of RBCS Mike Mosley sent out an email to parents obtained by Mid-Bay News that said, "I regret to inform you that one of our middle school teachers was arrested today by local law enforcement officers. The teacher has been on paid administrative leave and off campus for 2 weeks." Again, why are you being paid? I mean, I guess it's because he's not proven guilty yet, but that's pretty wild. RBCS is fully cooperating with authorities in this matter until authorities have concluded their investigation. Please pray for our school and students during this time. Gleason's LinkedIn profile states, "I see myself as primarily an educator of how dicks work. I am a Christian and a conservative. I think that everything I do needs to be connected to openly serving my Lord and Master Jesus Christ. He gave his life for me, and I need to give my life for him." Numerous commenters on an Instagram post about Gleason's arrest noted that his alleged molestation was committed by a Christian conservative rather than a drag queen. I mean, it's a little obvious, but okay. Christian churches have decades-long histories of child sexual abuse, and yet anti-LGBTQ plus right-wingers never mention this when accusing queer people of sexualizing children. Again, I mean, in the world, there's a history of people who are figures of authority, figures of trust in children's lives, taking advantage of them. That's how these things work. So yes, teachers and religious leaders, coaches, Girl Scout and Boy Scout troop leaders, this is where it's happening because this is where the opportunity presents itself. Or rather, this is where people who are interested in kids take jobs because they know they can get close to kids. And they'll do anything. They'll do anything for that. Real fucked up. Okay. All right. I'm going to go to the Wacko mailbag now. I don't know if I am allowed to read this person's name. I think no. All right. So this is in regards to federal employees being under attack. Hi, Corinne, longtime Wacko and fucker here. I wanted to shed some light on the recent topic of what federal workers are up against right now. First and foremost, I really appreciate the dedication you put into your shows. Your voice has been a source of guidance for me since I was a college freshman trying to make sense of the world around me. Thank you. No problem. Fast forward almost 10 years, and I am now a hardworking, bright, and passionate federal employee. I have worked with the National Park Service since I graduated, and I have to say times are extremely nerve-wracking right now. After many years of internships, seasonal employment, and moving all around the country, I finally had my dream job offer with the Park Service on the table. I was proud of myself for landing a competitive role, and I accepted almost immediately. A month later, my paperwork was filed, my background check was complete, and my official start date had been accepted. I made plans to move, worked to get an apartment lined up, and got my living expenses in order. Then with 2 days before moving across the country, my job offer was rescinded per Trump's federal hiring freeze. With many of my friends and coworkers receiving the same email, the Park Service and all other agencies went into panic mode, knowing we could not support our parks without the incoming staff, including summer seasonals, to do the work. I'm now scared, unemployed, and living out of a suitcase with a packed car at a friend's house until the hiring freeze is up, hopefully in April. Or quickly try and find other work. All this to say, this is just a small blip in the bigger picture of what is going on. Federal employees receive foreboding emails almost every day from Elon Musk's DOGE team, who have taken over our HR. They offer sketchy separation packages, hoping we will leave, threaten to take away federal funding for important grants that serve the American people, and they attempt to force employees to end all telework. A few weeks ago, you and Mike joked about federal employees needing to go back to work since the pandemic is long over. Please do not give in to this rhetoric. So first of all, that was like a passing statement, and I was responding to because it just because a couple people emailed about this. First of all, yeah, we didn't do a full article about it. This was literally a passing statement. So it's funny that we got so many emails about it. Obviously, touched a nerve. Totally understand. This is a completely different situation if you lost your job. I was kind of commenting on that everyone needs to go back to work in office post-COVID. It wasn't specifically targeted at federal employees. And I think people don't realize, because I'm a stand-up comedian, so you think of me as working on stage, but like that was a comment to myself too. I work from home as well. So I just want to make that very clear. I work from home, and I know how distracting it is, how hard it is on your mental health to be in the same place day after day, hour after hour, and the distractions that come with working from your own home. So I think there was some confusion about that, but I work from home, right? So like I don't just work 15 minutes a night when I'm on stage doing stand-up, or, you know, the couple of hours that I podcast a week, you know, by, you know, my trade, like if you're going to look at my day-to-day, what am I doing? Like obviously I'm making, you know, pieces for social media. So there's editing and stuff, a lot of computer work, but also, you know, I'm a writer. So I'm at home writing for hours and hours a day. And most writers work from home because unless you are working in like a newsroom, like if you're like a writer writing books, you're working from home. And I have several author friends, you know, John Ronson being one of them. And it is just, we just want to blow our brains out when we're at home trying to complete a book. So that is what I meant about that. It wasn't targeted specifically at federal employees. It was, however, comment about everyone who works from home. I just think it's not good for many reasons to work from home. That being said, yeah, no, I don't want everyone to lose their jobs. So I just wanted to clear that up because, again, it was like me and Mike joking really quickly, and then it got completely out of hand. And I feel like these things that we have long conversations about, everyone's like, blah, 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 and then you say something for like 2 seconds, and then everyone's like, that's what I'm going to hone in on. So, you know, please keep that in mind. I work from home. This administration wants you to think we are lazy and overprivileged workers. I don't think you're overprivileged. It's simply that I work from home, and I know it's distracting, and I also know how bad everyone's mental health was during COVID because they weren't leaving their house. But in reality, most of us are underpaid and overworked in sectors. That's another issue that I have with working from home because there's no cap on the day, right? And I do this too. So you're kind of working in chunks. You're not finishing things because you're getting distracted. You have a kid to take care of. You have to take your dog out for a walk. Someone rings the doorbell. Someone gives you a call. So there's no clear beginning and ending to the workday. Cut to mental health, cut to things kind of being done piecemeal when they could be done all in a meeting if everyone was together. These are my things. But in reality, most of us are underpaid and overworked in sectors that benefit all Americans, even the ones who say we are useless. The portion of federal workers who telework is specifically a cost-saving measure for taxpayers. In a lot of cases, there are no offices for people to commute to because the building space doesn't exist and building is expensive. And of course, That's the thing. That I know people are saving money from telework, but I think that if you want to work from an office, like, you should have the ability to do so. There's a reason offices exist, and it's not. I don't believe it just to be to torture everybody. I personally never telework because I would be a biologist working outside. However, many park managers I work with telework part-time or full-time because we work in remote areas, which that makes sense, or we do not have the budget to build offices. There are many other instances like this in other sectors beyond my own personal experience. Make no mistake, this administration wants you to hate us. They want us gone, probably in hopes to fill our jobs with loyalist contractors, or robots. DOGE is attempting to run the federal government like a tech startup, and the aftermath is about to be very messy. Spreading the narrative that we are lazy only helps their case. Again, I'm reading this just to clear the air that it was not specifically to federal workers. It's anyone who works from home, and that includes me. And when civil servants are gone, who will process your tax refund? Who will help arrange funding for underserved communities? Who will help farmers produce enough food for our community? Who will keep your community free of toxic waste? There is no plan for any of these scenarios. Oh, I bet there's not. The effects are already starting. I am no longer allowed to protect our natural areas for people to enjoy, and it's crushing me. Federal employees are fighting to stay on to serve you and yours. Please have our backs through this. If this email reaches you, thank you, and I hope I made my points somewhat clear. Understanding the federal workforce is complicated and admittedly could use some efficiency in certain areas. And that's another issue. I mean, I'm looking at it from like a municipal standpoint. I've talked to a lot of government workers, specifically New York City government workers. And so I don't know the circumstances for all government workers because I'm concentrating on New York City right now. But they're definitely understaffed. So people, one person is doing the job of multiple people. They lack funding and they lack organization. And that's just me talking to specifically people working for the New York City government. And I think that's often the case with things that are run by the government. That being said, New York City, again, specifically has a lot of great plans to or great programs to access things that you might need. And I think that you often find those in larger cities, right? If you need help with, mental health care or child care, I mean, Eric Adams is toying with that, but or some kind of a service, you're usually going to be more have better luck finding it in a major city. Just what I've found. However, eliminating our jobs and using scare tactics to force us out without a plan moving forward is not exactly efficient either. Lots of taxpayer dollars have been and will be wasted just by the adjustment to this new work environment. Thanks, a concerned and heated follower. I wanted to clear that up because I got a couple emails about that I was not specifically targeting federal workers. That was my thoughts on working at home in general as someone who works from home for most of her hours of her day. And I also really agree with this sentiment. And again, we've talked about this on this show before. And it's not just the Republicans who do this. The Democrats certainly do this when they sit in the seat at the White House as well. But we spend, 4 or 8 years moving in one direction. And then if we flip parties, we just pull back and undo all the things that person did. And it's a waste of time. It freezes us in a space where we're making no progress. And it certainly wastes money because we're just doing and undoing things over and over and over again. And Donald Trump is using this tactic where he comes in, creates a lot of chaos right away. We talked about that, I believe, with the immigration lawyer a couple weeks ago. And, everyone falls into hysteria, which, again, I every week I say it, but please don't, because you're falling for his trap, and gets distracted and gets overwhelmed and then kind of burns out because they use so much energy being hysterical and then they have no energy left, right? Again, I'm going to say it every single week, but if you're not someone who's being directly affected by Donald Trump's policies, which right now is really concentrated on migrants and specifically trans people, if you're not part of one of those groups, so you have extra energy, you need to use that energy to support those groups and protect those groups, not to, I guess, sit and wait with a sense of doom for whatever is going to personally affect you. Right? So like, if the Democrats like to say that, we are voting for all people, we like to act like we're very concerned about everybody else. Okay. If we are as concerned about everyone else as we say we are, then we should be using that energy to do that, not to be like, oh my God, I can't have these policies. I'm so overwhelmed. Like, Democrats are very fucking dramatic, and it's getting us nowhere. All right, let's moving on to Girl. This is from Fox News, and it's about FEMA employees being fired for giving money hotel rooms to migrants in New York City. So says 4 FEMA employees fired for paying for hotels for migrants in New York City. Elon Musk said DOGE uncovered $59 million in payments for luxury hotels. And again, I mean, please process how weird it is that that Elon Musk is now reporting on the expenditures of a government program like FEMA. Please know that. That's very strange. The Department of Homeland Security told Fox News that 4 employees are being fired today for circumventing leadership and unilaterally making the egregious payment for hotels for migrants in New York City. The firings come after Elon Musk wrote on X Monday that the DOGE team just discovered that FEMA sent $59 million last week to luxury hotels in New York City to house illegal migrants. I think they're using luxury loosely. Like, these are hotels that are no longer acting as hotels. So when they were up and running, if they were luxury, like, they're not luxury anymore. But I digress. Firings include FEMA's chief financial officer, 2 program analysts, and a grant specialist, the DHS also said. Under President Trump and Secretary Noem's leadership, DHS will not sit idly and allow deep state activists to undermine the will and safety of the American people. Musk said in his message that the money is meant for American disaster relief and instead is being spent on high-end hotels for illegals, and that a clawback demand will be made today to recoup those funds. During former President Joe Biden's term, FEMA faced backlash after it was reported that while they lacked the necessary funds needed to help Hurricane Helene victims, they were dishing out money that ended up being used to aid illegal immigrants, right? And so this kind of notion of not having money to help our own people during COVID, post-natural disasters, we're talking Maui fires, we're talking Los Angeles fires, anything like that. And while we still have money to support people who have come here undocumented and who and to support, certainly wars in other countries, that upsets people. And I really I understand that, right? We do need to have money for the, quote, unprecedented, because national disasters are not unprecedented. They're precedented. They're happening, especially when we have such little concern for the environment. They are happening and they will continue to happen, right? And so I 100% agree that if we have all these funds for other things, that we should have funds to help our own people after a natural disaster. 100%, I understand why that angers people. That being said, I don't know that the anger then should be taken out on the migrants, right? It should be taken out on your government. House Speaker Mike Johnson clarified that emergency relief funding is separate from FEMA funds allocated to immigration, right? So it's, you're budgeting, this amount goes to here, this amount goes to here. Again, makes sense, but perhaps we need to budget differently, but said that the agency should not have any part in funding the border crisis. FEMA partners with Customs and Border Patrol and administers money to the Shelter and Services Program. I don't know how that sentence is written. A government-funded program that provides assistance and housing for illegal immigrants released into the U.S. So that's part of it, right? So part of it when we say, why is the money going to this? It should be going to this. Like, yes, obviously, like there is a budget and certain amounts of money are allocated to separate things. So when a huge natural disaster happens that no one was prepared for because it's a natural disaster and you don't necessarily know that it's coming, you might not have the funds allocated for that. But perhaps especially in this world where we're seeing more and more natural disasters because of the change in our environment, it seems like we should notice that and allocate more money to be prepared for when these things happen, because they continue to happen. And as we saw with the Los Angeles fires, the frequency of things like that is speeding up. A New York City Hall spokesperson confirmed to Fox News that the city had received funds through the past week that were allocated by the Biden administration for the purpose of housing and supporting illegal immigrants. Of the $59.3 million, $19 million was for direct hotel costs, while the balance funded other services such as food and security. According to New York City Hall, the funds were not part of a disaster relief grant. Representative Mike Lawler, Republican New York, told Fox and Friends on Tuesday that the firings were long overdue. These funds have been misappropriated going back to the Biden administration, and New York City, a sanctuary city, has been wasting billions of dollars of taxpayer money to provide free housing, clothing, food, education, and health care to illegal immigrants, including criminal aliens that are here legally, he added. And so I applaud DHS for taking action to stop these payments under President Trump's leadership, because we have incentivized cities like New York and states like New York, a sanctuary state, to allow this to continue, and it has to stop, Lawler also said. The Department of Homeland Security previously told Fox News Digital that those who made the payment will be held accountable. President Donald Trump suggested in a Truth Social post on Tuesday that FEMA should be abolished. FEMA spent tens of millions of dollars in Democrat areas disobeying orders, but left the people of North Carolina high and dry. It is now under review and investigation, he declared in the post. The Biden-run FEMA has been a disaster. FEMA should be terminated. It has been slow and totally ineffective. Individual states should handle storms, etc., as they come. Big savings, far more efficient, the president added. All right. And I mean, that's just kind of following a pattern that he has wanted to follow for a long time, which is states having more individual control over the people in their borders. Sorry, my throat's really killing me. All right. Moving on to something else, an opinion piece from the Washington Post having to do with migrants and also religion, two of his favorite topics, right? This is by Catherine Rampell, again, from the Washington Post. Trump's assault on religious liberty. Faith groups are suing the Trump administration to stop ICE raids at houses of worship. As you know, there are, previously there were places that they couldn't do raids, like churches, schools, etc. And Trump said, no, we're doing raids anywhere. No place is safe, right? At a mosque in the Bronx, African immigrants who had been regulars have stopped attending prayer services. At a church just outside Boston, where most congregants are of Haitian descent, roughly 2/3 of parishioners have vanished. At multiple Baptist congregations in the South, pastors are considering locking church doors once services begin. Their common fear that immigration agents will bust in and arrest congregants mid-prayer. That's because President Donald Trump recently gave Immigration and Customs Enforcement the go-ahead to conduct raids at houses of worship. That directive is now the target of two major lawsuits, the second of which was filed Tuesday morning. Plaintiffs in the suits include dozens of faith groups, from Pentecostals to Sikhs to Quakers to Jews, who believe the Trump administration is trampling their religious freedom. This might seem ironic, given that Trump has signed multiple executive orders purporting to reduce burdens on the free exercise of religion. Exactly. That's why, you can't believe the things that he's only doing things that are conducive to him and his friends, and protect people of faith. In reality, he and his allies have we're familiar with Donald Trump. Whether you like him or not, do you, in your heart, really think this is a Christian man? Do you really think this is a guy who fears God, answers to God, prays, is religious, lives his days, following the footsteps of Christ. Do you honestly believe that? Again, whether you like him or not, there is nothing about this man that says, I am a religious man. There's nothing. Use your brains. In reality, he and his allies have launched an aggressive assault on religious liberty, or at least the liberty to practice a religion that isn't precisely their own. The offensive began with attacks on specific faith leaders. Trump lashed out at the Right Reverend Marianne Booty, I forgot how to say her last name. Booty sounds good, but it might be like Bud. Episcopal Bishop of Washington, for having the gall to ask him to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared right now. Like, I'm not even like religious in that way, but if a reverend said that to me, I would like at least have respect for it. I wouldn't scoff the way the president did, Representative Mike Collins, Republican Georgia, even demanded that she be deported. Booty was born in New Jersey, which, to be fair, can sometimes feel like a foreign country. Literally nothing I hate more than a cheap joke about New Jersey. It doesn't feel like a foreign country. I've been to almost every state in America. It feels literally very normal, okay? Boy, oh boy. Nothing gets under my skin like a cheap New Jersey joke. It's just like, just tell me you've never been to New Jersey without never ever being to New Jersey. You're like, oh my God. Then Vice President J.D. Vance accused the Catholic Church without evidence of improperly receiving over $100 billion to help resettle illegal immigrants. Elon Musk laid into Lutheran organizations, declaring that DOGE would end allegedly illegal payments to the Lutheran groups that run food pantries and care for homeless people. But by far, the most serious encroachment on religious liberty is Trump's decision to overturn a longstanding directive against conducting immigration raids at protective or sensitive locations such as schools, hospitals, daycares, and churches. The guidance had been in place in some form since at least 1993 under Republican and Democratic administrations alike. It allowed enforcement actions at houses of worship only under exigent circumstances or with prior written high-level supervisory approval. The new Trump policy instead gives ICE agents unfettered authority to storm religious sites, constrained only by individual agents' own subjective common sense. So far, ICE has not yet raided a house of worship, although one church seems to have been targeted. In Tucker, Georgia, ICE agents arrested a Honduran man, an immigrant who had permission to live and work in the United States while his asylum application proceeded, when he stepped outside during Sunday services. He was at church with his wife and children. Again, just like, is this the country where I want to live? No matter how you feel about migrants and undocumented people, and do you feel like there's better ways the country could allocate its resources? I can have a conversation about all that, right? My question to you is, do you really want to live in a country where it is fair game, where it is commonplace for a man to step outside during a church service to, I don't know, get a breath of fresh air, smoke a cig, whatever he's doing, that he's attending with his wife and children, and to have ICE arrest him? That's the country you want to live in? That's not the country I want to live in. But Trump's directive might be curbing religious expression even without agents entering a church. Mere rumors of enforcement can chill attendance. For instance, members of a multicultural Methodist church in Glenmont, Maryland, were recently spooked when law enforcement officers parked their unmarked vehicles at the church during a regularly scheduled food distribution event. Turns out police were there for an unrelated operation nearby. Nevertheless, talk of an ICE raid quickly spread and scared congregants away from participating in other church events, said the church's pastor, the Reverend Kelly Grimes. This policy essentially had the impact of determining who has access to the message of Jesus, the life of the church, and participation in the Lord's Supper, said the Reverend Paul Baxley, executive coordinator of the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship, which represents about 1,400 affiliated congregations nationwide. Or If you're Roman Catholic, the Mass, or if you're Episcopalian, the Eucharist, which is supposed to be a meal for all disciples of Jesus, regardless of nationality. These concerns motivated the lawsuits arguing that Trump's directive violates both the Religious Freedom Restoration Act and the First Amendment. To take actions that make followers of Jesus hesitant to be in worship, to be at that table, is, I think, a really significant offense to the religious liberty of congregations and the core of the Christian faith, Baxley said. Again, are we separating church and state or are we not? We really need to. Baxley and other religious leaders I interviewed in recent weeks expressed concern not only about the infringement of religious liberty of immigrant worshipers, but of native-born Americans as well. For instance, physically communing with the other believers in one's community is a central part of the Quaker faith. We lose something vital in our religious exercise when people are in fear and unable to gather, explained Noah Merrill, Secretary, New England Yearly Meeting of Friends, another plaintiff. In many religions, including my own, Judaism, welcoming the stranger or ministering to the refugees is in itself an expression of faith. Now, clergy report that some U.S. citizen congregants are reluctant to volunteer in English as a second language classes, feeding ministries, and clothing distributions for fear of putting a target on their backs, too. This is exactly what religious liberty means, New York Episcopal Bishop Matthew Haid said at a recent Lower East Side church event. He gestured to the church volunteers nearby serving hot food to immigrants who congregate there weekly. Some of the immigrants in attendance wore crosses, others in a corner prayed to Mecca. This is exactly an expression of our faith. In Trump's America, such an act of faith has become increasingly dangerous. All right, that's ICE migrants. Moving on to the Department of Education. This is from NPR. Trump administration targets education department research arm in latest cuts. This is one of the things I'm most concerned about, right? We're already behind as a country in education, and this is certainly not going to make things better. I think that if you are someone who is actually concerned about the future of America, and look at me, I'm child-free and still this concerned about the future of America, right? We want children to be educated. We don't want to, for so many reasons, right? We want children to be educated. We don't want, we want them to be able to think critically and have literacy, regular literacy, media literacy. We want people who have learning disabilities to have a curriculum that is catered to their learning needs so that they are able to learn at the same rate as their peers. Like, we want all these things. An independent research arm within the U.S. Department of Education is being all but shut down, employees of the department say. The Institute of Education Sciences is responsible for gathering and disseminating data on a wide range of topics, including research-backed teaching practices and the state of U.S. student achievement. Many contracts have already been canceled, according to two employees briefed on the moves. They shared screenshots with NPR of emails sent on Monday notifying them of terminated contracts. The employees said they learned of the cuts at an emergency meeting called Monday afternoon by leaders of IES, a nonpartisan division of the Education Department that includes the National Center for Education Statistics. The employees asked that their names not be used because they feared for their jobs. Again, what's a common theme? Fear. How do we stop people from providing things that other people need? Fear. We saw it in the last article. People are scared, so they're not going to help immigrants. Here, people are scared, so they're not going to give their names. They're not going to speak out. They're not going to speak out against this dictator, right? Yo, guys, that's why you should vote for me. You know I live fearless. I'll fist fight a motherfucker. The research collected by IES is used by educators, state and local departments of education, school districts, colleges, and other researchers to better understand student achievement, enrollment, and a host of other important functions that shape this education system in this country. In the Monday meeting, employees were told that the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, a unit within the Trump administration run by Elon Musk, plans to cancel most of IES's contracts. 2 employees shared screenshots of emails summoning them to that meeting. Employees described a somber mood where some fought back tears and others raised questions about the future of IES. One of the employees who spoke with NPR said all of the contracts they oversee have been terminated. So it begs the question, what will this mean for our jobs? Another employee was skeptical of the idea that these cuts would lead to more efficiency. If they're doing this to save government money, they are wasting millions today. All the money we have spent working on these products down the drain. NPR reached out to the Department of Education and to the White House for comment. And please, if you have a moment, just surf around the White House website and look for things that look sus, because there's a lot of changes and we're not I don't even know that we're all keeping up with them, right? The White House has not responded. An Education Department spokesperson replied by sharing a link to a Monday Evening Post, on the X account for DOGE. The Post said the Department of Education terminated 89 contracts worth $881 million, and that one contractor was paid $1.5 million to observe mailing and clerical operations at a mail center. But a third source with extensive knowledge of many of these canceled Education Department contracts, who would not speak publicly for fear of retribution, told NPR that one shuttered and retribution. Okay, this is retribution is a word that I've heard many times this week, both in my own political travels and in the news. It is such a used tactic amongst lawmakers and politicians, right? Again, fear of retribution. If these people come into power, fear that you're going to really have it coming to you if you stand up to them. And I say, hit me with it, right? We're just all going to not do things because of fear of retribution. Hit me with it. I eat retribution for dinner. Let's see. I told NPR, because if we all don't fear, if we all say we're not going to fear, again, especially of those of us who are not being directly targeted right now, if we all say we're not going to fall for your fear tactics and we're not going to do your bidding, just don't do it. And again, this is easier for people who are in higher level positions who probably have, savings. So if they get fired, they have some time to figure it out. I understand that if you're working paycheck to paycheck, you can't be swinging your dick around like this. Totally get that, right? But for those of us who have some savings, who can swing our dicks around a little bit, I highly recommend this is the time to do it, okay? Because we cannot live in fear like this. And, if you don't believe in something and you're told to do something at your job and you don't believe in that, I don't know. Say fire me. Say take me to jail. I have no problem saying that. I know some of you guys have kids, but again, this is just yet another benefit of being child-free. Put me in jail. I'm not giving over people to ICE. Put me in jail. I'm not canceling these programs. I'm not undereducating people on purpose. Put me in jail. Told NPR that one shutter program was already underway in classrooms to study ways to help students nationwide make up for ground they have lost in math. Well, ground that we've lost in everything. We're considering what a rich country we are. We're so dumb. According to me too. I should know words. According to this source, students in multiple states were already working with high quality adaptive digital tools. Now, with the cancellation of that contract, the study will be cut short, and the learning tools could soon be removed from classrooms. The canceled contracts also include surveys and data collection on a range of issues, including private schools, homeschooling, and career and technical education programs. This is a decimation, the source told NPR, the destruction of knowing what works for kids. It's shocking. It's pointless, said Thomas Wacko, a former commissioner at the NC IES, referring to the halt in important research work. He added that the creation of IES was an attempt to put our understanding of education on a scientific footing with other fields of knowledge like medicine. Wow, what a great idea. What a great idea. And we're undoing it. If contracts tied to IES and NCES are indeed terminated and its research becomes unavailable online, a trove of data. As a woman, I'm sitting here salivating because I wish they would have put this much into women's healthcare, this much thought. But I'm glad if there's something else they could have put it into, that it's education, right? If contracts tied to IES and NCES are indeed terminated and its research becomes unavailable online, a trove of data gathered over many decades about the state of education in the U.S. could become difficult to access. And again, we're seeing this. Things are being hidden, right? Things are being erased. Our access to information is being taken away. Alarm, alarm, alarm should be going off in your head. This is bad. Again, not hysterical, just an alarm, right? I sometimes feel that we are not alarmed by the correct things, right? These are broader things that you see as you're entering a dictatorship. Hiding information, erasing things we know to be true. That's a problem. It's unclear what these contract terminations would mean for future data collection. According to the employees NPR spoke with, the National Assessment of Educational Progress, NAEP, will be preserved at least for now. NAEP, also known as the nation's report card, is the gold standard in assessments of student achievement and releases widely used data on how K through 12 students are faring in core subjects, including math and reading. President Trump has repeatedly said he plans to close the education department, which employs more than 4,000 people and has an annual budget of $79 billion. Okay. Just taking a little water break right now. Okay. I don't want to feel like, I don't want anyone to feel like this is just a show that's attacking Donald Trump. I certainly don't think that's the best use of our time and energy. And he did do something that I think is a great idea, should have been done long ago, that will save us all money. He's stopping the production of pennies. When I heard this, I said, this is a great idea. I said, this is a really, really good idea. And again, we got to give him credit where credit is due. I saw some, Democrat begrudgingly giving him his props online by saying even a broken clock is right twice a day. And I was like, wow, we really just can't let this man have a win, And I think it's important. I think it's actually counterproductive to what Democrats want to see happen when we don't give him credit where credit is due, right? We don't want to just be like, anything he does, find something bad about it. And why I chose this CNN article, because it tried to kind of like put a like, oh, well, now what? Like a bit of a negative spin on it, when I think this is just in reality pretty positive, and something, again, that should have been done long ago. I mean, at this point, producing a penny costs more than a penny is worth. Some were saying 2 cents, and then I saw reports that it costs as much as like 3.29 cents to create 1 penny, right? This is something that at many stores is left in a bowl. Many stores kind of stopped dealing with pennies anymore. They don't even deal with it. I know when I had a store, I think I very rarely dealt with pennies. It's just more trouble than it's worth. It clogs up your register, Getting rid of the penny introduces a new problem, nickels. This is CNN's take. President Donald Trump says he has ordered the U.S. Mint to stop making pennies, which he correctly says costs more than 1 cent to produce. For far too long, the United States has minted pennies, which literally cost us more than 2 cents. This is so wasteful, he said in a post on his Truth Social platform. Let's rip the waste out of our great nation's budget, even if it's a penny at a time. Trump actually undersold the cost argument. Pennies cost more than 3 cents to produce. But there's a problem with his plan. Phasing out the penny could result in needing to make more nickels, and the U.S. Treasury Department loses far more money on every nickel than it does on every penny. Without the penny, the volume of nickels in circulation would have to rise to fill the gap in small value transactions. Far from saving money, eliminating the penny shifts and amplifies the financial burden, said American for Common Sense, a pro-penny group funded primarily by Artisan. The company that has the contract to provide the blanks used to make pennies.
A pro-penny group?
Yeah. So again, this is why it's important to see where you're getting your information from. When we talk about bias, I would think the guy who is part of a pro-penny group that holds the contract to make pennies, he for a living monetizes making pennies. I think this guy might have a bias. What do you guys think? You know, but I think that you know, people might just see this headline in CNN Business and then be like, oh, I have an interesting counterpoint. When someone says it's good to eliminate pennies, they say, oh, but what about the nickel, right? I think that a lot of times when you're just exchanging information, you're like, does that person like really know the full story, or they just want to offer some information and bring something to the table, which is why I think it's so valuable if you don't understand something, or if you're just not well read on something, to say, I'm not really sure, I'm going to have to read more into that, or I'm not really sure, I don't give a fuck. I think that's also acceptable. According to the latest annual report from the U.S. Mint, each penny costs 3.7 cents to make, including the 3 cents for production costs and 0.7 cents per coin for administrative and distribution costs. But each nickel costs 13.8 cents, with 11 cents of production costs and 2.8 cents of administrative and distribution costs. These figures are for the government's fiscal year, which ends on September. I'll also say, I just think this is kind of a lot of talk about nothing. I think it's like, I don't know what's going on where you guys live, definitely in New York City. We are barely dealing in cash at all anymore. The amount of times I use cash, so low. And I know that's not necessarily true. I know sometimes that definitely can be like a caste system in how we spend money, right? It tends to be people with less money use cash more, whereas people with more money are using card. I mean, for me, definitely my chosen way of paying for anything is Apple Pay. And that's just out of pure convenience, right? Because I'm a woman who hates carrying a purse. I hate carrying extra stuff. So whenever I can, there's usually 3 things in my pocket. There's usually my keys to my house, my phone, and my lipstick. If I can only bring those 3 things anywhere, I am loving life, right? And again, that's the bonus of being 39. You don't have to have your ID on you as much anymore. Although, as my mom says, all adults should have their ID on them at all times, especially if you're someone who gets as many death threats as I do. We want to be able to identify that corpse.
Just one. What lipstick is that?
Oh, shut up. Yeah, I like that it's a running joke on all my shows now. What lipstick color am I wearing? The gatekeeper.
If you're going to mention it, I'm going to do my best to sneak it past you.
I love that. Well, you know, as I said, my alternative campaign slogan, what did I say it was? I said gatekeeping lipstick colors, not access to affordable housing. I mean, I could do it for really anything though, and not access to education. All right, so this is the administrative cost, blah, blah, blah. During that fiscal year, the Mint tried to cut those losses by making a few far nickels, only $202 million, down 86% from the $1.4 billion nickels it minted in each of the 2 previous years. That's also far less than the $3.2 billion pennies it made in 2024 and the $4.1 billion it made in 2023 and $5.4 billion it made in 2022. Again, like... And then they go back down. I'm not going to read all these stats. I don't think it's like that interesting to go that far into it. But then at the end of it, it goes, why ditching the penny may still make sense. And they talk about kind of convenience. And they say the National Association of Convenience Stores has in the past agreed with the idea of getting rid of the penny to speed transaction time, even if only by a second or 2 for each customer paying with cash. Again, I just really think by looking at other countries and looking what's happening, that I think we're just moving more and more, especially with the way young people prefer to do transactions, into a more cashless society. And it's also easier, like as a small business owner, it's also just was so much easier for me at the end of the day, even though there are fees associated with using a credit card. It's just so much easier to do accounting when you're doing everything digitally, because everything is laid out. Whatever you're using, a Square or whatever you're using, it was just made it so much easier. And even though I knew I'd be losing a tiny bit of money, I'm like, in the long run, like I'm kind of saving money because I don't have to pay an accountant to go over all these individual transactions. I don't have to spend time tabulating in the way that I would with cash transactions. It just there's so many reasons that it's better. And this is something I think of a lot when I see people experiencing homelessness in New York City, because, you know, obviously, like, that's the normal transaction. Like, people asking, do you have $1? And now when I say I don't have $1, like, I literally do not have $1 because I just don't really have cash on me very often. There were a couple savvy people in New York City who I think had like QR codes or something, or like we're accepting kind of like Venmo or something like that, which is like, it seems like comical, but this really is, I mean, truly, if people experiencing homelessness are accepting donations in a digital manner, I think that really speaks to the direction that the country and just society in general are moving. I mean, I'm not wrong. There are some Asian countries where they're already playing with having the chip in your hand and paying like that, right? I believe some places are already doing that. So again, it's just a digital world. So this kind of conversation about nickels and pennies and stuff is just like, we don't need to waste time or money on this. Like, I don't need, get rid of them both. I mean, I don't know. I guess you still need nickels, but it just seems like that's a great place to get rid of costs. All right. Let's see. All right, we're going to wrap up maybe like 2 articles left before I go and do my Patreon. I want to talk about the White House faith leader, okay? Again, Trump is still kind of appointing lots of, you know, people to different roles in his administration, and he has appointed the new White House faith leader. It's a chick named Paula. And let me tell you, you know things are bad when even InfoWars is making fun of the new White House faith leader, okay? Mike, can you play this piece on X? I mean, we'll probably get booted if we play the whole thing, but I want to show you the part where she's speaking in tongues, right? Again, there's religious and then there's speaking in tongues. What?
I mean, it's a legitimate religion.
I've never met anyone who was mentally stable who was partaking in a religion where they were speaking in tongues. I mean, look, it's full cult behavior. It's made up.
I have met someone who is like of sound mind and body who goes to an Episcopalian church and talks in tongues on a Sunday.
You can tell me who that is off air, and then we're gonna have a conversation about their well-being and perhaps do a safety check on them.
Corinne, you've obviously never met this person. They clearly lived in Florida.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because I'm sorry, like, you know, tongues. It's gibberish. It's a made up thing. It's not real.
Being overcome by the Holy Spirit. You've been to the other side.
Okay, can you please play this clip? We want to get to know Paula.
Sorry, it's taking me a second too. There we are. Wait. There we go.
And again, literally Alex Jones, not Alex, one of his minions on InfoWars was making fun of this woman. That's not a good sign.
Trump yesterday appointed a new White House faith leader. It's a lady. She's got some interesting thoughts.
That was uncalled for.
Let's hear what she has to say. Go to clip number 10.
She's a televangelist.
Of course, that's who Trump is going to appoint.
Right, because it's someone who knows how to make money. Some of the wealthiest people in this world are televangelists. I swear, if you want, all you want to do in this life is make money, become a televangelist. This is so, when InfoWars is making fun of you, this is so bad. When the InfoWars takes time to make fun of conservatives, you know things are bad.
The White House faith leader speaking in tongues.
All right, so we're going to read a little bit more about her. Her name is Paula, but yeah, she's speaking in tongues, and she's also seems to be just like a bad person. Again, this is from Times of India. From marrying thrice to calling BLM Antichrist, all you need to know about White House faith officer Paula White. President Donald Trump has announced the creation of a new White House faith office, appointing televangelist Reverend Paula White to lead it. White, who has been a spiritual advisor. Yes.
Period. Just full stop. A White House faith leader. This is a new position. There's not like traditionally been a chaplain in the White House.
I guess not.
So if this is a new position, you are completely doing away with the separation of church and state.
Yeah, I know that's the kind of the theme. That's why we've been doing God Watch on the show. I mean, I feel like it's interesting because I watched AOC speaking yesterday in another clip that was going around because she was upset and said like, she was upset with her fellow politicians using scripture to make it okay to target migrants, right? I think that was basically what I want to whittle the conversation down to summarize it to. So that's like the point she was making. But then she started a conversation about her own faith and about how true Christianity would mean opening the doors to these people. And while I agree with her on that, to me, I'm like, why are we still allowing this conversation around religion and Christianity to occur? To me, it's like you don't answer the conversation of religion with more religion or with your take on religion. No matter how you feel, you say, hard stop. Why the fuck are we talking about religion in a place where we are here to make policy and to take care of people? America was created so that people could do whatever they want religiously behind closed doors, peacefully, without being attacked. And it was not supposed to be a part of our government. And it is. And the Democrats, I mean, as has been our MO for several years, are not standing up to them and saying, like, whether or not I personally am religious is not the conversation here. It's that this should not be a conversation that's happening right now. And like I'm so bothered by it. And again, it's not that I don't believe in God. That's not the issue at all. The issue is that it has no place in government, and we're just letting it happen. We're letting it happen, and I think it's and there's just so much less constraints on religion in this country because it was set up to be separate from state, and now it's just seeping back in, and no one's really putting a stop to it. They're engaging in conversations about it. In fact, I don't know. Really bothers me. The President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, announced that he would create a new White House faith office and named televangelist Reverend Paula White to lead it, although it's unclear what the function of the new White House faith office will be. Well, Mike, let's pull it up on the government website. Trump shared the news while speaking at the National Prayer Breakfast in Washington, D.C. Again, why does that even exist? Where faith leaders and bipartisan members of Congress gathered for the annual event. Faith leaders can gather in their own time. I don't know why they're gathering in Washington, D.C., because it should have nothing to do with the goddamn government. However, President Trump added that he would create a faith office while directing Attorney General Pam Bondi to lead a task force to end anti-Christian bias, which will also include the rest of the Republicans' cabinet. He signed there's anti-Christian bias. Christianity is alive and thriving. He signed an executive order to protect the religious freedoms of Americans and end the anti-Christian weaponization of government. Okay. Is there a page on the whitehouse.gov about this government thing? Let me see. Oh my God. My God. Wait, can you pull up the homepage? Pull up the homepage. I hadn't seen this picture yet. Whitehouse.gov. I need the people to see this fucking photo.
This?
If you guys are listening audio only, it's a picture of Donald Trump pointing, and it says huge cap letters, America is back.
We're so back, baby. We are so back.
It says, every single day, I will be fighting for you with every breath in my body.
Unless I'm golfing.
I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. I guess it means without education.
Or until I knock 5 strokes off my handicap. Whichever comes first.
This will truly be the golden age of America.
It's a golf game.
I have an idea. How about we replace the M in America with the McDonald's Golden Arches? I'm loving it. Don't hate it.
How much you think McDonald's would pay for that?
I don't hate it.
I mean, if we could pay off the debt, if we could pay off the national deficit with McDonald's money by changing the American M to the golden arches, I think that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I think that's good. Wow.
I have the thing about the establishment of the White House face off.
This is what I'm telling you, though. You really got to just every couple days surf on over to whitehouse.gov because we got to keep tabs on what's going on here. Then if you scroll down, it says our priority is isn't it alarming that my mayor website seems more legitimate than the U.S. government website? It says if this was my running for mayor website, I would think that I was doing some kind of a publicity stunt. Anyway, so this Donald Trump thing, it says, our priority is President Trump is committed to lowering costs for all Americans, securing our borders, unleashing American energy dominance, restoring peace through strength, and making all Americans safe and secure once again. Okay, what does it say for the faith leader?
Well, I mean, the energy dominance thing is... I think that's the one to least make fun of.
Energy dominance. Just the fact that dominance is a word that we're using in our policy, I think is interesting.
Well, I mean, we were a
energy dominance.
Okay.
Dominance. That'd be a good name for an energy drink. Maybe he can do like a Trump energy drink called Dominance.
If you don't think there's already 4 Trump energy drinks.
I know.
All right. Establishment of the White House Faith Office. I mean, it's long, so...
Oh, can you, is there anything that really is jumping out at you? I can't see that far away anyway, I realize.
All right, so Section 1, policy. Faith-based entities, community organizations, and houses of worship have tremendous ability to serve individuals, families, and their communities.
Maybe he even wrote it himself if it says tremendous in there.
Tremendous. These organizations lift up people, keep families strong, et cetera, et cetera. The executive branch is committed to ensuring that all executive departments and agencies honor and enforce the Constitution's guarantee of religious liberty and to ending any form of religious discrimination by the federal government. Centers for Faith-Based Community Initiative. So Center for Faith is going to be like a big, you're going to see that a lot.
Center for Faith?
Yeah, substituting Center for Faith for Center for Faith-Based and Community Initiatives and Center for Faith for Centers for Faith-Based and Community Initiative each time they appear in these orders.
It doesn't say like what's the reason behind like this? What's the purpose of this?
Okay, so to the extent permitted by the law, the office shall from time to time consult with and seek information from experts in various faith community leaders identified by the White House and other EOP components, including those from outside the federal government and those from state, local, and tribal governments. These experts and leaders shall be identified based on their expertise in a broad range of areas in which faith-based entities, community organizations, and houses of worship operate, including protecting women and children, strengthening marriage and family, lifting up individuals through work and self-sufficiency, defending religious liberty, combating anti-Semitic, anti-Christian, and additional forms of anti-religious bias, promoting foster care and adoption programs in partnership with faith-based entities, providing wholesome and effective education,
wholesome. Wow.
Preventing and reducing crime and facilitating prisoner reentry, promoting recovery from substance disorder, and fostering and flourishing minds.
Seems like faith is really doing a lot. Wow. They're helping jail?
Okay. Yeah, Georgia. They're going to bring back George Michaels.
Wow.
Have him lead the faith-based initiative.
All right. Well, all right. I think that's good. We got the feel of it.
Well, I mean, churches do help reintegrate prisoners. Churches typically are the place that facilitate AA meetings. So people who are having substance abuse issues, you go on down the list and it's like, that building is used for more than a house of worship. So
for sure. And it should be. Otherwise, it's a waste of space if you're only using it one day a week.
A waste of tax-free space.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a whole other conversation. All right. So the last thing I'm going to do a could be worse this week, just because I feel like we need it. This one's pretty fucking bleak. It's from CNN World. And this is more than 150 female inmates raped and burned to death during Goma jailbreak in DRC, UN says. More than 150 female prisoners were raped and burned to death during a jailbreak last week when fleeing male inmates set fire to a prison in Goma in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, a United Nations spokesperson has said. UN Human Rights Office spokesperson Sif Magongo told CNN that most of the 165 female prisoners who were raped by escaping male inmates died in the fire. Between 9 and 13 female inmates, all of whom had also been raped, survived the blaze, Magongo said, citing a judicial source in the DRC. We did not independently verify the judicial official's report ourselves, but we do consider his account to be credible, Magongo told CNN Thursday. The male inmates, some of whom were killed by prison guards, plotted a mass escape on January 27th as the M23 rebel alliance battled with Congolese forces in Goma over control of the city, the UN-sponsored Radio Okapi reported Monday. More than 4,000 detainees fled the Muzenzi prison that day, it added, stating that the facility was now completely empty and left in ruins. DRC Communications Minister Patrick Muyaya confirmed the rape of the 165 women, telling CNN Wednesday that the government condemns with the greatest energy this barbaric crime. The killings and mass rape mirror recurring scenes of conflict-related sexual violence that have plagued the DRC for decades. On Friday, the UN's Human Rights Office said it had received reports of other cases of sexual violence involving the DRC's army and its allied forces. We are verifying reports that 52 women were raped by Congolese troops in South Kivu, including alleged reports of gang rape, said Jeremy Lawrence, a spokesperson for the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, in a statement Friday. CNN has contacted the Congolese military for comment on the allegation. This week, the M23 rebel group, which has claimed to have captured the city of Goma, called for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire after clashes with government forces left nearly 3,000 people killed. So, some might not say that's like a palate cleanser, but again, just as we are kind of sitting in our own doom and gloom, I wanted to remind you could be worse. And also just to draw attention to that, because I think, again, we're really selective in the countries and situations that we follow internationally as Americans. And we think that for some reason, there are only some places that, seem to matter to us and some don't. And there are certainly a lot of places that need our attention as a first world country for now. That might be changing soon. Meaning a first world country might be changing. Not that we don't need time and attention to these places always. All right. So that is our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, if you want to join the Patreon, it's patreon.com/withoutacountry. Memberships start as little as $6 a month, and you can get an exclusive video news story every week. Shout out to our dictator, Hannah Pendergrass. Additionally, if you want to contribute to my campaign, please head over to CorinneFisher.com. Your contribution makes a huge difference. Obviously, whatever you can give, we need a good amount of money. So if you're having a good year, if you believe in the platforms, if you think that women should be given money for things other than weddings or childbirth, as a investment in our dreams. Contribute because of that, and especially if you are a New York City resident, even if you don't have a lot of money, New York City residents, your contributions are matched 8-1, and also I specifically need to get to a threshold of a certain amount of New York City resident donations. So for New York City residents, it is quantity of donors in addition to quantity of money that really matters. So even if you don't have a lot of money, if you're a New York City resident, even if you barely like me, please just shoot me $5. It really makes all the difference in the world, and I extremely, extremely appreciate it. And of course, if you want to hit the ground running and volunteer, I find volunteering very fun, right? Especially when it's something that you believe in. And I think something like a mayoral race, when kind of a non-traditional candidate like myself is running, like this could be really interesting. It could be really interesting conversations you're having with fellow New Yorkers. And I think you'll meet a lot of like-minded people if you're looking to expand your friend group or perhaps pursue something interesting of your own, right? Like if you want to embark on something, whether it's starting your own company or an idea that you have, like you need people who are go-getters to be a part of that, right? And so if you need more go-getters in your life, I highly recommend volunteering because that's where you're going to meet other go-getters. I bet so many of my friends like interning and stuff in New York City, and those were the people who were really like willing to get things done. Because, friends are great, especially in your 20s, but they're not all going to be go-getters. And if you want to really like achieve something in your life, you got to surround yourself with some other go-getters. Honest ones, though, please make sure. All right. So thank you so much for joining me. Again, if you want to email me, it's withoutacountrypodcast@gmail.com. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube to Without a Country. That's super important. You can follow me on all social media at Philanthropy Gal. I'm on Corinne Fisher at Blue Sky. And of course, hit that follow button for my new Instagram, Corinne Fisher for Mayor. There'll be lots of mayoral content and behind the scenes stuff there if you're interested, especially in pursuing politics or running a campaign of your own. Mike is online at Them Harrington. And do you have any kind of armored battles to promote or?
Not until May, but I am fighting in that one, so that's going to be pretty sweet.
Okay, sick.
Check that out. It's going to be in Newark, Delaware, but not for a while.
Amazing. All right, guys. Well, I'll see you this Friday, Valentine's Day, 6 p.m. at New York Comedy Club, East Village. Make sure to grab those tickets. Again, $49 a piece. And if you want to buy multiple, just multiply 49 times the amount of tickets you want and click that other button. You don't have to do a separate transaction for every individual coming to the show with you. Going to be so fun. It's a live recording of Guys We Fucked with a special surprise guest. And I'm going to give a speech, right? This is my first speech. This is going to be historical. Honestly, you're kind of crazy if you're missing it. And it's at 6 p.m. So you can just fuck and drink or whatever you're going to do on Valentine's Day afterwards. Cry. I don't know. Whatever the things you're going to do. Have a great day. Thank you so much for using your noggins with me. I appreciate it. Critical think always. Bye.
Running from the man, yeah, the madman's coming, yeah, the man's gunning for me tonight.